Maya Thompson was no stranger to hardship. Born in a small Ohio town, she grew up in the shadow of neglect and abuse. Her childhood was a collage of broken furniture, slammed doors, and nights spent listening to her parents' arguments through thin walls. School offered little refuge. Her peers often mocked her quiet demeanor and withdrawn nature, labeling her shy, fragile, or too weak to stand up for herself. Yet beneath the surface, a fierce determination simmered, an inner fire that refused to be snuffed out by ridicule or hardship. Maya's resilience was invisible to most, but it was real, and it would shape every choice she made in the years to come. After high school, the world felt vast and intimidating, a place where she had no clear footing. She considered college, but quickly realized that without financial support, her dreams were limited. She worked odd jobs delivering pizzas, cleaning offices, shelving books, anything to scrape together money and maintain independence. Yet even in these mundane tasks, Maya's discipline stood out. Supervisors often commented on her punctuality and quiet competence, never realizing that beneath her calm exterior, she carried a restless hunger to prove herself. She wanted more than a paycheck. She wanted a purpose. She wanted a life where strength was measured, not by words or appearances, but by actions. The decision to enlist in the United States Army came one ordinary afternoon. Maya had been walking home from her job at a small convenience store when a recruiter approached her, offering a brochure and a polite smile. The pamphlet promised adventure, challenge, and a path to something greater, a chance to redefine herself. Maya accepted the invitation, not with youthful naivety, but with calculated intent. The Army would not just be a career. It would be her crucible, the place where she could forge the person she knew existed inside her, even if no one else had seen her yet. Boot camp at Fort Bragg was unlike anything Maya had imagined. The barracks were packed with new recruits, the smell of sweat and fear heavy in the air. The drill sergeants barked orders that seemed impossible to follow, and the physical demands were relentless. Many of her fellow recruits faltered, succumbing to exhaustion or despair. Maya, however, discovered a rhythm in the chaos. She woke before dawn, pushed herself through grueling exercises, and meticulously studied every tactical lesson. While others complained or gave up, Maya thrived on precision and discipline. She did not seek recognition. She sought mastery. Her instructors quickly took notice. Captain Reynolds, a grizzled veteran with decades of combat experience, observed her during obstacle courses and marksmanship drills. "She's quiet, but she's got grit," he muttered to a colleague one morning after watching Maya navigate the rope climb faster than anyone else. Her peers, mostly men, were initially dismissive. They assumed she would crumble under pressure, that her frailty would be exposed in moments of real challenge. They did not understand that Maya's quiet demeanor masked an iron will, mental toughness forged in the fires of her turbulent childhood. As the days passed, Maya began excelling in areas that had previously been thought to favor only the strongest male recruits. Her endurance during long marches, her accuracy during live fire exercises, and her instinctive grasp of tactical maneuvers left her peers scrambling to keep up. Some grudgingly admired her skill, while others whispered behind her back, unable to reconcile her femininity with her undeniable competence. Maya, however, did not care for their opinions. She measured herself not against others, but against her own limits, pushing herself further with every passing day. But it was not only physical strength that distinguished Maya. It was her mind. During classroom sessions on strategy, she demonstrated remarkable insight, anticipating scenarios and proposing solutions that often caught instructors by surprise. Captain Reynolds once noted, "Most recruits think only about survival. She's thinking 5 steps ahead." In moments where others panicked, Maya's calm focus became a lifeline, a quiet force that seemed to radiate competence. Some of her peers began to look to her for guidance, even if they would never admit it openly. Despite her growing prowess, Maya faced challenges that went beyond physical or mental tests. She struggled with self-doubt, haunted by lingering memories of failure and inadequacy from her youth. Some nights, she would lie awake in the barracks, staring at the ceiling and replaying every perceived mistake. But rather than letting these doubts consume her, she converted them into fuel, allowing each moment of uncertainty to strengthen her resolve. She learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to act, despite it a lesson that would define her in the years ahead. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the barracks in golden light, Maya stood alone on the training field. Sweat dripped down her face, and her muscles burned from the day's exercises. Yet she felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. This was where she belonged, not in the shadows of her past, not in the judgment of others, but in the crucible of challenge that allowed her to discover who she truly was. She knew deep down that her journey had only just begun. Something awaited her beyond the walls of Fort Bragg, something that would test every ounce of strength and courage she had cultivated. Her intuition was right. Within months, Maya would face a trial that no training could fully prepare her for. A situation that would force her to confront fear, mortality, and the depths of her own resolve. The quiet recruit, underestimated by everyone around her, was destined to become someone far more formidable than anyone could imagine. In her heart, Maya already understood this truth. Life would press a gun to her head, metaphorically at first, and perhaps literally later. But when that moment came, she would rise not as the timid girl from Ohio, but as a force shaped by survival, discipline, and an unbreakable will. By the end of her first part of the journey at Fort Bragg, Maya had earned more than respect. She had begun to cultivate a reputation. Whispers circulated in the barracks, quiet but deadly. Others rolled their eyes, dismissing it as exaggeration. Yet Maya knew that her real challenge had not yet begun. The quiet recruit had laid the foundation, but the steel within her was still being forged, ready to face trials that would define her legacy as the deadliest fighter the base, and perhaps the country, had ever seen. Maya Thompson had survived the rigors of Fort Bragg, endured the physical strain, and proven her mental toughness, but nothing could have prepared her for the chaos of real combat. Months after completing advanced training, she was deployed to Afghanistan, part of a U.S. Army unit tasked with securing a remote outpost near the volatile Helmand province. The air was thin and sharp at dawn, carrying dust and the faint scent of gunpowder from previous skirmishes. Every shadow seemed to hide danger, and every rustle in the distance made the hairs on her neck stand on end. Her team, a mix of seasoned veterans and green recruits, had developed a routine: patrol at sunrise, check the perimeter, maintain communication, and never underestimate the enemy. Maya moved with precision, her senses heightened, absorbing every sound and motion. Despite the adrenaline and the fear that clung to the edges of her mind, she felt an odd sense of calm. She had trained for this, dreamed of this, yet the reality was more unforgiving than any drill or simulation. That evening, as the sun dipped behind jagged mountains, the outpost was quiet, a dangerous kind of quiet that Maya had learned to mistrust. Suddenly, the distant sound of gunfire shattered the silence, echoing across the rocky landscape. "Ambush!" yelled Sergeant Ortiz, the team's field commander, as shadows emerged from behind ruined buildings. They were surrounded. The insurgents had waited patiently, hidden in the hills, then struck with deadly precision. Chaos erupted. Maya's heart pounded, yet her training kicked in. She dropped to the ground, returned fire, and directed her teammates to form a defensive perimeter. Bullets ricocheted off walls and dirt mounds. Smoke and dust clouded vision. Screams and shouts mingled with the roar of automatic weapons. Her unit fought valiantly, but it quickly became clear they were outnumbered. Amid the confusion, Maya and a small team were separated from the others, forced to retreat toward a ruined compound for cover. And then it happened. Maya froze as a masked insurgent emerged from the shadows, pressing a cold, heavy gun against her temple. Every instinct screamed to move, to dodge, to fight, but one wrong move could mean instant death. She could feel the barrel's pressure, hear her own heartbeat in her ears, and smell the acrid smoke in the air. Fear surged, but it was not paralyzing. It was sharp, focused, and clarifying. She refused to show weakness. "Talk," the insurgent hissed in broken English, demanding the location of the base. Maya's lips pressed into a thin line. She shook her head, defiance radiating through every fiber of her being. Time seemed to slow. Seconds stretched into minutes as the gun remained pressed to her head. Maya's mind raced. She remembered every lesson from training. Control your fear. Assess the situation. Look for openings. Yet beyond strategy, there was another instinct rising within her, a raw, unyielding refusal to be a victim. This was the moment that would separate those who survived from those who didn't, and Maya was determined to be counted among the survivors. Suddenly, a deafening explosion erupted nearby as a U.S. helicopter engaged insurgent positions, providing cover fire. The masked man pulled the trigger, but Maya reacted instinctively, ducking and rolling behind a jagged wall of concrete rubble. Her body moved with precision and speed born from months of relentless training. Gunfire erupted all around, and she felt the heat of bullets grazing the air near her shoulders. Heart racing, adrenaline surging, Maya fought her way through the chaos, covering her teammates and helping them reach relative safety. By sheer luck, coordination, and the fierce determination that had defined her life, the team regrouped at a defensive point. Several of her comrades had been wounded, and the screams of pain and terror hung thick in the smoke-filled air. Maya's hands were steady as she assessed the injuries, applied first aid, and coordinated evacuation efforts. Every decision mattered. Lives depended on her composure, her instincts honed through countless hours of training, and the fire that now burned with an intensity she had never felt before. The aftermath of the ambush was devastating. The outpost was damaged, supply lines disrupted, and a few soldiers had lost their lives. The memory of the gun pressed against her head remained etched in Maya's mind, a symbol of vulnerability, of fear, and of the thin line between life and death. Yet alongside that fear was another, more powerful feeling, resolve. She had stared death in the face and survived. That night, Maya Thompson did not simply survive. She transformed. The fear, the terror, and the helplessness were now weapons she could channel, a source of unshakable determination. As medevac helicopters carried the wounded to safer facilities, Maya sat apart from her team, her uniform scorched and torn, her hands shaking slightly from the adrenaline crash. She replayed the events in her mind over and over, analyzing every move, every decision, every instinct. Each detail became a lesson, a blueprint for survival and mastery. She realized that fear, when harnessed correctly, could become focus. Helplessness could transform into control. Pain could sharpen resolve. This night had marked her irrevocably, creating the foundation for the soldier she was destined to become. Back at the base, officers debriefed the survivors, offering praise and medals, but Maya remained quiet, almost withdrawn. She did not need accolades. She needed understanding that her life, and the lives of those around her, had depended on split-second decisions, courage, and mental clarity under pressure. And she knew, deep in her heart, that this battle was only the beginning. The soldier who had faced a gun pressed to her head had awakened a force within her, one that would grow, sharpen, and dominate in ways no one could predict. In the weeks following the ambush, Maya trained with a renewed intensity. Every physical drill, tactical exercise, and strategic lesson was infused with the memory of that night. She sought perfection, not recognition, pushing herself further than ever before. Her peers began noticing a change. Her movements were sharper, her instincts more precise, and her focus almost unnerving. Rumors began to circulate quietly among the ranks. Maya Thompson was no longer just a quiet recruit. She was a force to be reckoned with, someone shaped in the crucible of fear and forged in the fire of survival. That night, lying awake in the barracks, Maya thought of the insurgent who had threatened her life. She did not feel hatred, only clarity. She understood that fear was temporary, but strength, focus, and resolve were eternal. The soldier she had been before deployment had been tested, stripped down, and rebuilt. And the quiet recruit who had joined the army months ago was gone. In her place stood a warrior alert, determined, and deadly ready to face whatever challenges the future held, on the battlefield or beyond. The gun pressed to her head had not broken her. It had awakened her. It had planted the seed of transformation, a promise she had made silently to herself. Never again would she be powerless. Every mission, every training exercise, every encounter would be an opportunity to refine that strength. And somewhere deep inside, Maya knew that her journey had only just begun. The battle had been won, but the war within herself, and the one she would fight to protect others, was only starting. Maya Thompson returned to the United States, not as the same woman who had left months earlier, full of youthful determination and eager to prove herself. The flight from Afghanistan felt endless. The hum of the aircraft engines, a constant reminder that she was leaving a battlefield behind, yet carrying it within her. Her mind replayed the ambush repeatedly, the gun pressed to her head, the shouts of her comrades, the smell of gunpowder and dust, the screams, and the chaos. Each memory was vivid, unyielding, and relentless. She had survived, but she carried a heavy burden that no metal could erase. Back at Fort Bragg, Maya was met with a mixture of relief, admiration, and subtle unease from her peers and superiors. She had been commended for her bravery, her quick thinking during the ambush, and the lives she had helped save. Yet Maya felt no pride. Instead, she felt hollow, haunted by guilt and the ever-present replay of that terrifying moment. Every shadow in the barracks seemed to whisper the memory of the insurgents' cold gaze. Sleep was elusive. Nightmares came without warning, dragging her into the desert chaos over and over. She woke screaming on more than one occasion, drenched in sweat, heart hammering as if she were still in that gunfight. Doctors and psychologists evaluated her, noting the signs of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. They spoke of therapy, coping mechanisms, and even recommended she be temporarily relieved from active combat duty. But Maya refused. Sitting stiffly in the sterile office, she listened quietly, absorbing their words while her mind worked differently. To her, the problem wasn't weakness. It was opportunity. The memory of fear, the memory of being helpless, these were not chains. They were tools. She would transform them into focus, skill, and unmatched precision. During the following weeks, Maya channeled her mental and emotional energy into physical training with a single-minded obsession. Pre-dawn runs became longer, more grueling. Push-ups and sit-ups increased in intensity and number. Combat drills repeated until her muscles burned with fatigue. She found solace in repetition, clarity in motion, and control in exertion. Each movement was a small victory over the chaos lingering in her mind. The barracks that had once seemed like a sanctuary now felt confining, a place where the ghosts of her past lurked. Training became both her armor and her weapon. Her peers watched, with a mixture of awe and unease. Some tried to approach her, offering camaraderie and encouragement, but Maya was distant. She didn't need friends or validation. She needed mastery. Others whispered rumors, Maya's gone quiet. Too quiet. Something's changed. They had no idea. The fear she had once felt, the terror that had threatened to consume her in Afghanistan, had been tempered into something sharper. A steel-like edge now ran through her movements and thoughts. Her instructors noticed too, and began assigning her tasks that others hesitated to undertake. Maya thrived under the pressure, navigating each challenge with a deadly calm. Maya also began developing her own mental strategies. She visualized combat scenarios in minute detail, rehearsing every possible outcome in her mind. Every ambush, every attack, every possible confrontation was meticulously studied and perfected. She tracked her reaction times, her precision, and her endurance, pushing herself to surpass the limits of ordinary soldiers. The memory of that gun pressed to her head was never far from her mind. Rather than letting it haunt her, she transformed it into a compass, an unflinching reminder of what was at stake and what she could survive. Despite her transformation, Maya's emotional wounds ran deep. She struggled with anger, guilt, and sorrow for the comrades she had lost, the lives shattered, and the innocence stripped from her. Nights were the hardest. Even in the quiet of the barracks, every creak and shadow sparked memories of gunfire and chaos. She occasionally replayed the ambush in her mind with variations, what she could have done differently, how she might have saved more lives. But instead of succumbing to despair, she allowed these mental rehearsals to sharpen her instinctual responses. Pain became strategy, fear became precision, and trauma became her teacher. As weeks turned into months, Maya began to earn a reputation that whispered through the ranks. Soldiers who once underestimated her now spoke of her in hushed, almost reverent tones. The Ghost, they called her, a figure who moved with uncanny composure, striking decisively and vanishing before retaliation. Maya did not seek the nickname, nor did she care about recognition. She had learned that the only approval that mattered was her own. The Ghost was not a title. It was a manifestation of her mental transformation, a symbol of focus and lethal efficiency forged in the crucible of fear and survival. Her transformation also caught the attention of her superiors. Captain Reynolds, who had once doubted her during training, now watched with cautious respect. "She's no longer a recruit," he told a colleague. "She's something else entirely. Watch her, she's going places." Maya herself did not consider her potential or her future accolades. Her focus was singular. She could never again allow herself to be powerless. Every movement, every decision, every action was geared toward control, survival, and mastery. She was becoming something few had seen before, a soldier honed by trauma, sharpened by fear, and disciplined beyond imagination. Yet even as Maya honed her skills and gained notoriety among her peers, the memory of the gun remained vivid. It haunted her not in the moments of triumph, but in the quiet intervals, the seconds between training exercises, the silent nights in the barracks, and the fleeting moments alone. It was a constant reminder that life could be stolen in an instant, and that only relentless preparation and mental fortitude could prevent it. Maya carried the image with her, not as a mark of vulnerability, but as a symbol of her promise to herself: never again. In the months that followed, Maya's abilities extended beyond physical prowess. Her intuition and tactical thinking improved dramatically. She began instructing other recruits during exercises, guiding them with calm authority and anticipating dangers before they arose. The once quiet, unassuming soldier was now a presence to be reckoned with. Her movements were deliberate, her decisions precise, her instincts razor-sharp. Even seasoned soldiers hesitated when she entered a room or assumed a position. There was something in her eyes, a certainty, a silent warning that this was no ordinary recruit. By the end of her first year back in the United States, Maya had transformed. She was no longer the timid recruit who had joined the army seeking purpose. The Ghost had emerged fully a figure forged from trauma, honed by fear and strengthened by determination. Her peers respected her, some feared her, and her superiors watched closely, recognizing her potential for special assignments and covert operations. But Maya herself remained grounded. She did not seek fame or glory. She sought only mastery of herself, her skills, and her response to the chaos that life could hurl at her. And deep in her mind, beneath the layers of discipline and strength, burned a silent, unshakable fire. The night in Afghanistan, the gun pressed to her head, and the terror she had endured had become her compass. Fear no longer controlled her, it guided her. Pain no longer weakened her, it sharpened her. Maya Thompson, once the quiet recruit, was becoming the deadliest fighter the base had ever seen. The transformation was far from complete, but the foundation was set. The ghost had been born. Maya Thompson had returned from Afghanistan forever changed. The terror of being held at gunpoint had carved itself into her mind, but instead of breaking her, it had forged her into a sharper, more focused soldier. Her peers now referred to her as the Ghost, a name whispered in reverence and fear across the barracks. Yet for Maya, the title held no significance. What mattered was mastery of herself, her instincts, and every skill necessary to survive and dominate in combat. When she received orders to report to Fort Benning, Georgia, for advanced tactical training, Maya felt a surge of anticipation. This was no ordinary program. It was an elite training ground for soldiers destined to operate in extreme combat situations that required intelligence, agility, and lethal precision. She arrived at the sprawling base, eyes scanning the training grounds with the same methodical observation that had saved her life in Afghanistan. Every obstacle, every tactical exercise, and every drill was a test of mental and physical endurance. From the first day, Maya stood out. Instructors quickly noticed her calm demeanor, unwavering focus, and uncanny ability to anticipate challenges before they occurred. While others panicked under the pressure of high-intensity simulations, Maya thrived. She moved with a blend of grace and lethal efficiency, her mind calculating angles, assessing threats, and predicting enemy movements with precision. In one early exercise involving an urban combat simulation, she cleared a room faster than any trainee in the group, disarming opponents and neutralizing threats with methodical speed. The drill sergeant paused, eyebrows raised. That girl's not just trained. She's instinct. Male trainees initially mocked her, confident that brute strength and experience would surpass her subtle precision. She won't last, they whispered, chuckling as they pushed through obstacle courses or leave-fire drills. But their laughter soon turned to stunned silence. In every challenge, Maya exceeded expectations. She scaled walls with lightning speed, executed tactical maneuvers flawlessly, and demonstrated marksmanship that was deadly accurate under pressure. Each success reinforced her own confidence, while her peers began to realize that the quiet recruit from Fort Bragg was now a formidable opponent and a force none could underestimate. The training was grueling. Days began before sunrise and ended long after sunset. Exhaustion became a constant companion. Muscles ached relentlessly, and mental strain pushed the limits of endurance. But Maya welcomed it. Pain was no longer a deterrent, it was a teacher, shaping her body and mind into tools for survival. Every repetition, every obstacle, every tactical scenario became an opportunity to refine her instincts, sharpen her reflexes, and test her courage under stress. She thrived in the crucible of extreme pressure, transforming her past trauma into precision, control, and unyielding determination. It wasn't just physical skill that Maya honed. Mental acuity became a weapon. During strategy exercises, she anticipated enemy movements, planned escape routes, and devised contingency plans that outwitted her peers and impressed her instructors. Her observations were meticulous, her timing impeccable. In one simulation, a team of 5 tried to ambush her squad in a mock urban combat scenario. Maya anticipated the trap, redirected her team's movements, and neutralized the attackers with flawless execution. Captain Reynolds, now assigned as a training overseer, observed her with quiet amazement. "She's not just good," he said to a fellow officer. "She's something else entirely. Watch her. She's going places." Maya's growing reputation was not without consequences. Some trainees viewed her skill with envy, their resentment simmering beneath the surface. Whispers circulated. "She's freakishly good. How is she doing this?" Others admired her, seeking her guidance during exercises and drills. Maya, however, remained focused, neither seeking approval nor fearing judgment. She understood that true mastery required discipline, not praise. Every skill she learned, every maneuver she perfected, was an investment in the day when her abilities would be tested in life or death situations again. As the weeks progressed, Maya's instructors began assigning her increasingly challenging tasks. Solo simulations, covert infiltration exercises, and complex tactical operations became her new normal. She thrived on the challenge, pushing herself further with every assignment. Nights were spent reviewing maps, memorizing layouts, and mentally rehearsing combat scenarios with painstaking precision. She became a strategist, a warrior, and a teacher all at once. The once timid recruit had evolved into a soldier who could dominate any scenario, anticipate any threat, and survive against overwhelming odds. One pivotal exercise marked her rise to notoriety. During a live-action scenario involving multiple enemy combatants in a simulated urban environment, Maya's team was outnumbered and forced into a corner. The trainees expected chaos, but Maya acted with terrifying clarity. She coordinated her squad with precision, covering angles, neutralizing threats, and securing the perimeter in record time. When the exercise concluded, the entire training base buzzed with whispers. "Did you see the ghost?" She cleared the entire simulation alone in under 5 minutes. The nickname had stuck, but Maya did not care. She measured herself only against her own limits. Despite her growing prowess, Maya never lost sight of the lessons from Afghanistan. The memory of the gun pressed to her head remained vivid, driving every decision and movement. She understood fear intimately. It was not an enemy, but a guide. Her training became a ritual, a method to confront fear, master her instincts, and maintain control under pressure. Every exercise, every obstacle, and every challenge was a rehearsal for moments where hesitation could mean death. She no longer feared danger. She studied it, anticipated it, and controlled it. As months of training wore on, Maya's transformation became undeniable. Her physical capabilities were extraordinary, her mental acuity unmatched, and her tactical instincts razor-sharp. She was not just a soldier. She was a weapon, honed in the fires of trauma, tempered by discipline, and sharpened through relentless training. Her peers looked to her for guidance. Instructors relied on her insights, and even those who doubted her initially were forced to recognize her dominance. Maya had become something rare, an elite warrior, capable of unparalleled efficiency in combat. Yet beneath the exterior of precision and lethal skill, Maya carried a quiet intensity. She did not train for glory, medals, or recognition. She trained because survival had once depended on her courage and quick thinking. She trained because she had stared death in the face and refused to yield. And she trained because she knew that one day, the skills she honed in the controlled environment of Fort Benning would be tested under real combat conditions again, perhaps against enemies far more cunning and dangerous than any simulation. By the end of her advanced tactical training, Maya Thompson was no longer simply a soldier. She was an embodiment of resilience, skill, and lethal intelligence. The quiet recruit who had joined the army seeking purpose had transformed into a formidable warrior, capable of facing any threat with deadly precision. Her reputation as the Ghost spread quietly through military channels, whispered with a mixture of awe and fear. And though Maya herself remained focused and unassuming, the seed of her legend had been planted. The stage was set for the next chapter of her journey, a journey that would take her from the controlled environment of advanced training into the unpredictable chaos of covert missions, where every skill she had honed would be tested, and where the Ghost would finally step into the full measure of her destiny. Maya was ready, more prepared than ever, and determined to face whatever challenges awaited her with unflinching courage and lethal precision. Maya Thompson stepped off the transport plane in Iraq with the quiet confidence that had come to define her. Months of advanced tactical training at Fort Benning had transformed her into a formidable soldier, the Ghost. But now, the controlled drills and simulations were replaced with reality, an active, unpredictable battlefield where lives could end in an instant and mistakes were unforgiving. Dust swirled around her boots, the sun blazed mercilessly, and the distant echoes of artillery fire hinted at the chaos that awaited. Maya's senses sharpened instantly. Every sound, every movement, every subtle vibration carried potential danger. Her new assignment was not for the faint of heart. She was embedded in a covert tactical unit tasked with intelligence gathering, hostage rescue, and neutralizing high-value targets. The missions were dangerous, often unapproved by conventional military oversight, relying on precision, stealth, and absolute discretion. Maya thrived in this environment. Unlike conventional deployments, where chaos could be overwhelming, these operations required every ounce of control, focus, and instinct she had spent years cultivating. The battlefield had become her domain, and she moved within it like a shadow, silent, invisible, lethal. On her first mission, Maya's unit infiltrated an insurgent stronghold rumored to be holding hostages. The compound was fortified, surrounded by guards and booby traps. Others might have hesitated, their nerves fraying under pressure, but Maya moved calmly, assessing every angle. She directed her team with concise commands, anticipating potential threats before they materialized. Every step was deliberate, every movement precise. As they breached the main hall, Maya neutralized 3 hostile combatants with surgical efficiency, clearing the path for the hostages' escape. Her teammates, seasoned soldiers themselves, could only watch in awe as the Ghost executed the operation flawlessly. Success did not breed arrogance in Maya. Each mission, while executed with deadly precision, left her haunted by the memories of those lost in Afghanistan and the gun pressed to her temple. The echo of fear that had once threatened to paralyze her now fueled her instincts. She had learned to convert trauma into power, fear into focus. Yet, the psychological toll of constant vigilance, of holding lives in her hands, weighed heavily. Nights were sleepless, haunted by the faces of enemies and allies alike, and by the lingering question, how many lives depended on her unwavering precision? The Ghost became a legend among covert units. Maya's reputation spread quietly, whispered in corridors and among special operations teams. "She's unstoppable," one officer muttered during a debrief. "You never see her coming, and when you do, it's already over." Maya did not seek this recognition. She did not crave admiration. Her satisfaction came from mastery, knowing that every skill honed in training, every decision under fire, could mean the difference between life and death for her and her team. Yet despite her skill and precision, Maya faced moral challenges that tested her in ways no simulation ever could. On one mission, she discovered that an insurgent cell was composed not only of combatants, but also of coerced civilians. The lines between friend and foe blurred, forcing her to make decisions that weighed heavily on her conscience. She resolved conflicts with efficiency, aiming to minimize casualties while completing objectives, but each choice left a mark. The battlefield was not only physical, It was psychological, and Maya was acutely aware that every decision shaped who she was becoming. As the weeks turned into months, Maya's mastery of covert operations grew unparalleled. She led night raids, orchestrated intelligence extractions, and executed surgical strikes that saved countless lives. Her movements were measured and precise, her instincts flawless. She became a strategist as much as a warrior, analyzing patterns, anticipating insurgent tactics, and preparing contingency plans with meticulous detail. She was no longer just a soldier following orders. She was a force operating on the edge of danger, blending mental acuity with lethal skill. Despite her accomplishments, Maya carried the weight of every life lost, every mission compromised, and every split-second decision. PTSD and survivor's guilt were constant companions, lingering beneath the surface even as she executed missions with flawless precision. She sought refuge in training exercises, drills, and meditation, using discipline as a shield against the emotional strain of combat. The ghost was not merely a persona. It was a survival mechanism, a fusion of skill, focus, and unyielding determination that allowed her to function when others faltered. Her team came to rely on her, not just for her lethal skill, but for her unwavering composure. In moments of extreme danger, when explosions rocked the environment and gunfire echoed across alleyways, Maya remained calm. She coordinated maneuvers, covered flanks, and neutralized threats with efficiency that bordered on preternatural. Her reputation as the deadliest fighter on the base was no longer whispered. It was acknowledged by all who trained with her, deployed with her, or faced the aftermath of her operations. She had become a symbol of precision, resilience, and unstoppable force. Yet even as Maya excelled on the battlefield, the shadow of her past haunted her. The memory of the gun pressed to her head in Afghanistan never faded. It became both a reminder and a motivator. She knew that at any moment, control could be stripped away, that lives could hang by a thread. Each mission, each life saved or lost, reinforced her belief in preparation, discipline, and mastery. The ghost was not born from arrogance. It was forged in terror, tempered by trauma, and sharpened through relentless pursuit of excellence. Maya's effectiveness drew attention from military intelligence and Special Operations Command. They began assigning her to missions of increasing complexity and strategic importance. Hostage rescues in urban environments, counterintelligence operations, high-value target neutralizations, she excelled at all, often surpassing the expectations of commanders and peers alike. Her ability to anticipate threats and act decisively made her invaluable, yet Maya remained focused on the mission rather than accolades. Success was measured not by recognition, but by survival, precision, and the lives preserved through her actions. Throughout this period, Maya also began mentoring younger soldiers in her unit. She shared not only tactical skills, but also lessons in mental resilience, emphasizing the importance of control over fear and focus under pressure. Her guidance was invaluable, and trainees often remarked that her presence alone instilled confidence. Yet Maya maintained a quiet detachment. She understood that leadership required balanced compassion, tempered by discipline, guidance delivered without ego. Her role had evolved. She was both a fighter and a mentor, shaping the next generation of soldiers to survive and excel in environments where lives hung in the balance. By the end of her first year in covert operations, Maya Thompson had transformed fully into the ghost the base whispered about. She was a lethal combination of skill, strategy, and mental fortitude. Her experiences had forged her into a soldier who could navigate the chaos of battle with unmatched precision, adapt to unforeseen dangers, and remain calm when others would panic. Yet the ghost carried more than just skill. She carried a weight of memory, trauma, and determination that fueled her actions and sharpened her instincts. As she prepared for yet another mission under the cover of darkness, Maya reflected briefly on how far she had come. The quiet recruit from Ohio, the girl underestimated at Fort Bragg, the soldier who had survived a gun pressed to her head, had become something extraordinary. She was no longer merely surviving. She was dominating, commanding, and shaping the battlefield. The ghost had emerged fully, a figure of lethal efficiency and mental resilience, feared and respected in equal measure. Maya understood, however, that the greatest challenges were still ahead. Intelligence reports hinted at the presence of an enemy she had faced before, a warlord connected to the ambush in Afghanistan. The possibility of confrontation lingered in her mind, a reminder that the past was never truly behind her. Yet Maya welcomed it. Every skill she had honed, every lesson she had learned, and every ounce of determination within her would be tested. And she knew one truth with absolute certainty. When the time came, the ghost would face the challenge with the same lethal precision and unwavering resolve that had defined her journey from recruit to elite soldier. Maya Thompson had faced countless dangers, neutralized threats, and led her unit through covert operations with precision that earned her the name the Ghost. But intelligence reports brought news that stirred a different kind of fire within her, the insurgent who had once pressed a gun to her head in Afghanistan, a shadow from the Yangdi past she had long feared, yet never forgotten, was alive. He had resurfaced as a warlord, orchestrating attacks in volatile regions, his reach expanding and his cruelty escalating. The thought of facing him again sparked a blend of fear, anger, and determination in Maya, a cocktail she had learned to harness into lethal focus. Her superiors briefed her in a secure operations room. The mission was risky, nearly suicidal. Infiltrate the warlord's stronghold, gather intelligence, and neutralize him before further bloodshed occurred. Surveillance images showed heavily armed guards, booby-trapped entry points, and a fortress-like compound hidden deep in rugged terrain. For most soldiers, the mission would be terrifying, the odds insurmountable. For Maya, it was a chance for closure and a test of every skill she had honed since that night in Afghanistan. Every decision she would make had to be perfect. Hesitation would cost lives, including her own. Nightfall approached as Maya and her tactical team moved through the desert, shadows stretching across the cracked earth. She led with quiet authority, her movements deliberate, her eyes scanning every ridge, crevice, and shadow for danger. Every step was calculated. She reviewed contingencies in her mind, potential ambushes, exit strategies, backup plans, escape routes. She thought of her past self, the recruit at Fort Bragg, the soldier in Afghanistan, and she drew strength from the journey that had transformed her into a warrior, capable of facing the man who had once held her life at gunpoint. The approach was tense, the air electric with anticipation. Her team positioned themselves around the perimeter, using the terrain for cover. Maya signaled with hand gestures, directing silent movements. They reached a point where visual confirmation of the compound was possible. Guards patrolled the outer walls, their patterns predictable but deadly. Maya observed them, noting timing, movement, and weaknesses in their formation. Every detail mattered. She had spent months preparing for this confrontation, studying the enemy, rehearsing scenarios, and anticipating contingencies. Now, every second of preparation mattered. As the team infiltrated the outer perimeter, Maya's heart pounded, not from fear, but from focus. She moved with the grace of a predator, silent, precise, deadly. One guard moved too quickly, a step out of rhythm, and Maya neutralized him with a swift takedown. No shots were fired. The ghost did not announce her presence. Her unit followed in perfect synchronization, every movement coordinated, every command silent but understood. The warlord's compound loomed ahead, a fortress of shadows and threats, and Maya felt the weight of history pressing down the memory of the gun, the fear, the helplessness. She would not feel powerless again. Inside the compound, tension escalated. Surveillance indicated the warlord's position, but the approach was fraught with danger. Booby traps, guard rotations, and unpredictable threats made every corridor and room a potential death trap. Maya navigated with precision, signaling her team to cover angles and check blind spots. In the dim light, she moved like a shadow, silent but aware of every heartbeat, every motion. The ghost was no longer a name whispered in fear. It was a reality, a manifestation of discipline, skill, and unyielding determination. Suddenly, Maya caught sight of the warlord. He was older, hardened, and cruel, but the same cold eyes that had once threatened her life stared back. Time seemed to slow. Memories of that night in Afghanistan surged gun against her head, the taste of fear, the helplessness. But this time, she was in control. She was not the frightened recruit. She was the ghost, trained, prepared, and ready. The man's gun was no longer a threat. Maya's experience and skill transformed fear into opportunity. Every calculation, every instinct, every muscle memory converged in this moment. The confrontation was brutal and swift. The warlord lunged, and Maya anticipated his move, sidestepping and using his momentum against him. Guards attempted to intervene, but Maya's team moved with lethal precision, neutralizing threats while maintaining focus on the primary target. Every decision she made was instantaneous yet deliberate, a combination of instinct and training honed over years of trauma, preparation, and discipline. Her eyes locked on the man who had once held her life, and she felt a cold, undeniable sense of power. She was no longer a victim. When the conflict ended, the warlord lay subdued, disarmed, and defeated. Maya's breathing was steady, her movements controlled, yet a profound sense of closure washed over her. This was more than victory. It was reclamation. She had faced the embodiment of her deepest fear and emerged not only alive, but victorious. The ghost had confronted the hunter from her past and emerged as the predator. The mission was over, the threat neutralized, and yet Maya's journey was far from complete. Returning to base, Maya's team debriefed in tense silence. Superiors praised the precision, planning, and execution, but Maya remained focused, analyzing every movement, every decision, and every outcome. She had proven something to herself that no medal or commendation could quantify. Fear could be transformed into power. Trauma could become strategy, and even the darkest moments could forge strength beyond imagination. The ghost was not only a soldier, but a symbol of resilience, mastery, and lethal competence. In the weeks that followed, Maya trained and led operations with renewed intensity. A memory of the warlord, the ambush in Afghanistan, and every challenge she had faced became part of her arsenal. She shared her expertise with her team, teaching not only tactical skill, but also mental resilience. Her leadership inspired others, though Maya herself remained quiet, focused on mastery rather than recognition. Every mission, every exercise, every decision was a test, and she met each one with unwavering precision. Yet beneath the exterior of confidence and lethal skill, Maya wrestled with the emotional aftermath. Victory over the warlord did not erase trauma. It reframed it. She carried the weight of memory, loss, and the thin line between life and death. The ghost was no longer a symbol of fear or legend. It was a testament to survival, determination, and mastery over one's mind and body. Maya had faced death, fear, and helplessness, and she had emerged not only alive, but transformed into a warrior of unparalleled skill and focus. As Maya prepared for future operations, intelligence suggested that remnants of the warlord's network were still active. The challenges ahead promised danger, unpredictability, and moral complexity. Yet Maya was undeterred. The ghost moved forward with calculated steps, every movement deliberate, every decision precise. Her past had shaped her. Her skills had defined her, and her experiences had forged her into a soldier capable of facing threats most could not even imagine. She was ready for whatever lay ahead, unyielding, lethal, and unstoppable. In the quiet moments, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought her here. The girl who had joined the army seeking purpose, the recruit underestimated at Fort Bragg, the soldier held at gunpoint in Afghanistan, all were part of the path that had forged the ghost. She had transformed fear into power, trauma into mastery, and uncertainty into deadly precision. And though the battlefield still demanded everything from her, Maya knew one truth with absolute certainty. The ghost would continue to move through shadows, strike decisively, and survive where others faltered. She was no longer a victim. She was a force to be reckoned with, the embodiment of resilience, skill, and unflinching resolve. Maya Thompson returned to the United States in the early hours of a chilly autumn morning. The tarmac at Fort Bragg was quiet, the only sounds the hum of engines and the distant barking of military dogs. Yet the quiet felt surreal. Maya had left a war-torn world filled with chaos and life-or-death decisions, only to return to a base that seemed mundane by comparison. But for her, nothing was ordinary anymore. The ghost had been forged in fear, survival, and trauma. The civilian life she briefly glimpsed on the plane ride home felt fragile, almost alien. Even as her boots touched the familiar soil of the base, Maya carried the invisible weight of every mission she had executed. Faces of those she had saved and those she had lost swirled in her mind. The warlord she had confronted, the ambush in Afghanistan, countless covert operations, they all lingered, etched into her memory like scars that refused to fade. Her body was unharmed, but her mind was a battlefield of its own, echoing with the sounds of gunfire, explosions, and unrelenting tension. She had mastered survival, yet the cost of mastery was an emotional burden heavier than any pack she had carried in combat. Maya's return coincided with a period of restructuring at the base. New recruits arrived daily, filled with ambition and naivety, unaware of the true demands of combat. Observing them stirred something within her, a reminder of her own journey. The timid recruit from Ohio, the girl underestimated and overlooked. Maya realized she could no longer focus solely on missions and operations. She had a responsibility to guide, to teach, and to instill resilience in those who would follow in her footsteps. The ghost had to become a mentor as well as a fighter. She began quietly observing the training drills. New recruits struggled with basic maneuvers, panic flickering across their faces during live fire exercises, and hesitation in tactical decision-making. Maya noted every error, every weakness, every opportunity to intervene. Her approach was subtle, offering guidance without condescension. "Stay calm," she would say softly, demonstrating movements with deliberate precision. "Think ahead, anticipate, control your fear, it's the only way to survive." Slowly, the recruits began to notice her presence. She was not just a soldier. They realized she was someone who could teach them how to endure, to survive, and to dominate fear itself. The transition from field operative to mentor was not easy. Maya grappled with her own demons daily. Nightmares of Afghanistan and Iraq returned, vivid and unrelenting. She would wake in cold sweats, reliving the gun pressed to her head, the chaos of ambushes, and the high-stakes missions where split-second decisions determined life or death. Each memory carried guilt and grief, the weight of responsibility pressing down. Yet she had learned to channel these emotions. Pain, fear, and trauma were now tools energy to refine her focus, sharpen her teaching, and guide others with clarity. Maya's reputation as the ghost preceded her. Recruits whispered about her lethal precision, her calm under pressure, and the unspoken aura of dominance that surrounded her. Yet she remained grounded. She did not seek recognition, medals, or praise. Her satisfaction came from transformation hers, and theirs. Watching a recruit execute a maneuver correctly after her guidance, witnessing hesitation replaced with confidence, or seeing panic replaced with calm determination became a measure of her success. For the first time, Maya discovered that leadership and mastery were intertwined. That strength was not only physical, but also emotional and psychological. Her days were filled with intensive training sessions, classroom strategy discussions, and one-on-one mentorship. She challenged recruits relentlessly, pushing them beyond perceived limits while providing support to ensure survival. "Fear is inevitable," she would explain during tactical exercises. "Control it, anticipate it, use it. Never let it dictate your actions." Her own experiences, the ambush in Afghanistan and the warlord in Iraq, became lessons disguised as stories tales of survival, decision-making under pressure, and the transformation from vulnerability to dominance. Recruits listened, rapt, absorbing the knowledge from someone who had lived what they could only imagine. Despite her focus on mentorship, Maya never abandoned personal development. She continued physical and tactical training with the same intensity she had in combat zones. Dawn runs, precision drills, advanced combat simulations, all were part of her routine. She pushed herself to maintain peak performance, reminding herself that the battlefield could return at any moment. This balance of personal mastery and mentorship became her new purpose. Maya was no longer just surviving. She was preparing others for survival while continuously sharpening herself, ensuring that the ghost remained not just a legend, but an active force. Yet the psychological toll was ever present. Maya faced moments of isolation, where the weight of memory and responsibility felt unbearable. She sought solace in quiet reflection, meditation, and long runs alone in the pre-dawn light. During these moments, she confronted the ghosts of her past, the gun against her head, the chaos of ambushes, the lives lost. Rather than letting these memories weaken her, she transformed them into energy for growth. The ghost had not only survived trauma, she had mastered it, using it to fuel every aspect of her life, from combat to mentorship. One afternoon, during an advanced simulation for recruits, Maya observed a young soldier falter under pressure, freezing during a critical decision-making moment. Without hesitation, she intervened, guiding him through the steps with calm authority. "Breathe, focus, anticipate. Control your fear, it's your greatest weapon," she instructed. The recruit followed her lead, successfully completing the maneuver. Maya watched quietly, a sense of pride hidden behind her usual stoic demeanor. She realized that her purpose had expanded. She was not only the ghost, the deadliest fighter on the base, but also a guide, shaping the next generation of warriors to survive and thrive under extreme pressure. Maya's balance between lethal efficiency and emotional leadership became her defining trait. She remained the ghost in the field, capable of unmatched precision and deadly execution. Yet she was also a mentor, instilling resilience, discipline, and confidence in those who would carry the mission forward. Her dual role elevated her status among peers and superiors alike, earning respect and admiration without the need for ego or recognition. Maya understood that true mastery required both skill and the ability to guide others, to transform experience into teaching, and to convert trauma into growth. As months passed, Maya embraced her new life at Fort Bragg, blending combat readiness with mentorship. Her presence was a stabilizing force, a reminder that fear could be mastered, that skill could be honed, and that survival required more than physical prowess. It required mental fortitude. The ghost was no longer a solitary figure operating in the shadows. She was a leader, a teacher, and a symbol of resilience, inspiring those around her while maintaining the lethal precision that had made her legendary. In quiet moments, Maya reflected on her journey from the timid recruit in Ohio to the soldier pressed at gunpoint in Afghanistan, to the deadly operative in Iraq, and now to mentor and leader at Fort Bragg. Every trial, every mission, and every fear had forged her into the person she had become. She understood that mastery was not a destination, but a continuous journey, one that required discipline, resilience, and the courage to confront both external threats and internal demons. The ghost was alive, not only in action, but in purpose, a symbol of strength, focus, and unyielding resolve. As night fell over the base, Maya stood alone on the training field, surveying the recruits she had guided, the drills she had overseen, and the soldiers she had shaped. Her mind was sharp, her instincts honed, her body ready. She had faced death, fear, and chaos, and had emerged not only alive, but transformed. The ghost had evolved once again into a mentor, a leader, and an embodiment of mastery over mind, body, and spirit. The journey was far from over, but Maya Thompson knew one truth with absolute certainty. She would continue to move through shadows, strike with precision, and shape the future of those who would follow, balancing lethal skill with the wisdom born of survival. Maya Thompson stood at the edge of the training field at Fort Bragg, the sunset casting long shadows across the base. The battlefield, the missions, and the traumas of her past were no longer distant memories. They were the foundation of everything she had become. The ghost had moved from the timid recruit to a lethal operative in Afghanistan and Iraq, and now to a mentor and leader, shaping the soldiers who would carry forward the Army's mission. Yet Maya knew her journey was far from complete. Her final mission, one that would test every skill, instinct, and ounce of courage she possessed, awaited. Intelligence had flagged a domestic terror cell, planning a large-scale attack within the United States. It was unprecedented in complexity and scope. Conventional units struggled to contain the threat. Maya was assigned the lead, her team relying on her expertise to infiltrate the cell, gather intelligence, and neutralize the operatives before catastrophe struck. Unlike her previous deployments, this mission was on home soil, in cities teeming with civilians. The stakes were higher, the margin for error slimmer, and the consequences of failure catastrophic. Preparation became an obsession. Maya analyzed every piece of intelligence, memorized layouts, predicted patterns, and simulated every scenario in her mind. She trained relentlessly, refining marksmanship, tactical movement, and team coordination. Her unit became an extension of herself, synchronized to execute her plans with precision. Maya understood that this mission was not only a test of skill, but of leadership, judgment, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. One mistake could cost countless lives. The operation began under the cover of darkness. Maya and her team infiltrated the city, moving like shadows through alleys, rooftops, and back streets. Every step was calculated, every decision deliberate. Maya's instincts guided the team, anticipating threats before they appeared. The terror cell was organized, armed, and ruthless, but Maya's preparation and leadership gave her the edge. The ghost, known for lethal precision and calm under fire, was about to prove why she had earned her reputation. The first confrontation was swift and chaotic. Maya's team neutralized guards with silent efficiency, moving through the building with tactical precision. Each encounter tested their skills, reflexes, and composure. Maya remained focused, guiding her team with clarity and authority. When a trapped operative attempted to flee with explosives, Maya reacted instantly, disarming him and preventing disaster. Every move she made combined instinct, strategy, and experience lessons forged from past traumas and honed through relentless training. As they progressed deeper into the building, Maya faced her most personal challenge. The leader of the terror cell was an ex-military operative who had once been a promising soldier but had turned to extremism. He recognized Maya's reputation and sought to challenge her personally, setting a trap that would test not only her skill but her judgment. Maya paused, assessing the situation with meticulous care. Every second mattered. Every decision was a balance between aggression and caution. The ghost was no longer a reactive fighter. She was a strategist, predator, and protector all at once. The final confrontation was tense and violent. Maya faced the leader directly, a battle of speed, skill, and mental fortitude. Each strike, parry, and movement was precise, a culmination of years of training and experience. Memories of Afghanistan, Iraq, and every mission she had undertaken converged in the moment, guiding her instincts and decisions. Fear was present, but controlled. The gun that had once been pressed to her head in Afghanistan now symbolized survival, mastery, and the power to act decisively. With a combination of agility, tactical skill, and quick thinking, Maya overpowered the cell leader, disarming him and securing the location. Her team neutralized remaining threats and ensured civilian safety. The mission was a complete success, a testament to her lethal skill, strategic mind, and leadership. Yet even in victory, Maya felt the weight of the operation. Lives had been at risk, the threat had been real, and the responsibility for success rested squarely on her shoulders. She had proven, once again, that mastery was not about glory, it was about precision, preparation, and the protection of others. Returning to base, Maya's accomplishments were recognized formally, yet she remained humble. She did not seek accolades or recognition. Her satisfaction came from knowing that lives had been saved, that her team had performed flawlessly, and that the ghost had fulfilled her purpose. She understood that her journey was a continuous process. Training, preparation, and mastery were not destinations. They were ongoing, a way of life. The ghost had become more than a soldier. She was a symbol of resilience, precision, and unwavering resolve. Maya continued to mentor recruits and seasoned soldiers alike. Her methods combined tactical expertise with psychological guidance, teaching them not only to survive, but to thrive under extreme pressure. She emphasized discipline, mental resilience, and the ability to transform fear into action. Soldiers trained under her guidance developed confidence, focus, and lethal efficiency. The ghost's presence became both an inspiration and a standard, a benchmark for excellence within the base. Maya understood that her legacy was not merely in her own actions, but in the skills, mindset, and courage she instilled in others. Despite her legendary status, Maya faced moments of solitude and reflection. The memories of combat, the ambush, the warlord, and every life she had impacted haunted her quietly. She had learned to coexist with these memories, using them to guide decisions and sharpen skills. Trauma, fear, and pain had become teachers rather than obstacles. The ghost was a persona, yes, but it was also an extension of Maya herself, a synthesis of human vulnerability, discipline, skill, and relentless determination. She had faced death, fear, and chaos repeatedly, and emerged not only alive, but transformed. Her reputation spread beyond the base, reaching higher echelons of military intelligence and special operations. Maya was approached for advisory roles, tactical consultations, and high-level planning. She remained selective, understanding the importance of focus, discretion, and strategic engagement. Her influence extended not through ego or ambition, but through skill, leadership, and the quiet authority earned through experience. The ghost had become an institution, a standard of excellence, and a beacon of resilience within military circles. Yet, the most important legacy remained at Fort Bragg, among the soldiers she trained and mentored. Maya's impact was visible in their composure under fire, their precision in execution, and their ability to convert fear into focus. The recruits who had once trembled under pressure now approached challenges with confidence, guided by the principles Maya had instilled. She had created not just soldiers, but warriors, capable of facing uncertainty with unwavering determination. The ghost was no longer only Maya. It lived in every soldier who had learned to harness fear, sharpen skills, and master the chaos of combat. In the quiet moments, Maya reflected on her journey from the timid recruit in Ohio, to the soldier trapped at gunpoint in Afghanistan, to the lethal operative in Iraq, and finally to a mentor and leader shaping the future of the Army. She understood that her evolution was continuous. Mastery was not static. It was a constant pursuit. The ghost had been forged through fear, trauma, and relentless training, but it thrived through guidance, leadership, and the transformation of others. Maya's story was one of survival, skill, and unyielding resolve, a story that inspired, instructed, and endured. As the sun set over Fort Bragg, casting golden light across the training grounds, Maya stood silently, watching her soldiers move through drills with confidence and precision. She had faced death, fear, and the unknown countless times. She had mastered herself and influenced others to do the same. The ghost was alive, embodied not just in her actions, but in her legacy, a force of skill, resilience, and unwavering purpose. Maya Thompson had become more than a soldier. She had become a legend, a mentor, and an enduring symbol of what it meant to transform fear into power, trauma into mastery, and survival into excellence. The ghost had completed her journey, not by seeking recognition, but by mastering herself, guiding others, and facing every challenge with lethal precision and unwavering focus. Maya knew that new threats would arise, new challenges would come, and the cycle of training, preparation, and execution would continue. But she also knew this: the ghost would endure, in her actions, in her teachings, and in the soldiers she had shaped. And that, she realized with quiet satisfaction, was her true victory.